Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right and still nothing changes? You wake up early, you meditate, you journal your intentions, you pray, you plan, you hustle harder than ever before, and yet, things stay stuck. It's like you're pushing a door that just won't open no matter how hard you try. If that hits home, I want to offer you a truth that might feel uncomfortable at first, but it could change everything. You can't force alignment from a place of fear. Most of us are taught that if we just try harder, think more positively, or work longer hours, the universe will reward us. But Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, once said, "What you resist not only persists, but grows in size." Let that sink in for a second. That tension you're carrying, that subtle panic underneath all your effort, that's not just stress, it's resistance. And the universe doesn't respond to resistance. It responds to resonance. So maybe it's not about doing more. Maybe it's about doing differently. Maybe, just maybe, it's about surrendering, not as a form of giving up, but as a radical act of trust. Because sometimes what looks like nothing's working is actually life redirecting you back to yourself. Have you ever wanted something so badly that it consumed your thoughts? Maybe it was love. Maybe it was financial freedom. Maybe it was that dream career or that one person who you thought would make everything feel complete. You chased it. You planned for it. You envisioned it. You told yourself, once I have this, I'll finally be okay. But here's the truth most people aren't ready to hear. It's not the thing you're chasing that you really want. It's the feeling you believe it will give you. You're not craving love, you're craving the safety of not being abandoned again. You're not desperate for success, you're desperate to prove that you're enough, especially to the ones who once made you feel small. You're not obsessed with money, you're yearning to feel secure in a world that once taught you scarcity. And that's not your fault. We've all been conditioned to chase external rewards for internal wounds. But here's the twist, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So if your energy is built around scarcity, fear, or unworthiness, then everything you chase will slip through your fingers. Not because you're not trying hard enough, but because your very pursuit is rooted in a belief that you're not whole yet. Let's break it down. Imagine someone running a marathon with a hole in their shoe. They might finish the race, sure, but they'll be limping, bruised, exhausted. That's what it's like chasing love or success without healing what's broken inside. You might get there, but it will never feel like enough, because deep down you're still trying to outrun your past instead of sitting with it. Carl Jung said it best. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So ask yourself honestly, what part of me still believes I'm not enough? What am I truly trying to fix by chasing this dream? Because here's the liberating truth. You don't need to prove your worth to receive love. You don't need to grind yourself into the ground to deserve rest. You don't need to chase what was never meant to be yours in the first place. Real alignment begins when you stop reaching out there and start reaching in here. When you stop chasing validation and start healing the parts of you that believe you need to earn it. When you stop begging the universe for something more and start becoming the kind of person who no longer needs to ask because they already feel whole. That's when life changes, not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned with it. So the next time you catch yourself running after something, pause. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Because maybe you don't need more. Maybe you need less noise, less proving, less running, and more becoming. Let me tell you something that most people never realize until life forces them to slow down. The universe doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your energy. Not the captions you post about healing, not the affirmations you chant in front of a mirror, not the goals you write in gold ink in your journal. It listens to what's underneath all of that, your unconscious, that quiet, invisible realm inside you, the one that stores your deepest beliefs, your old traumas, your unspoken fears. That part of you is always speaking, and it's speaking louder than anything you say out loud. So if you're wondering why things aren't shifting, why the relationship isn't showing up, why the money isn't flowing, why you still feel stuck even after doing all the right things, you need to ask yourself one simple question. What is the energy I'm unconsciously sending out? Because here's the brutal but freeing truth. If your unconscious is rooted in fear, doubt, or unworthiness, the universe will mirror that back to you, not to punish you, but to show you what still needs healing. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." So stop looking for signs in the sky. Start paying attention to the signals inside your soul. Think about it. Have you ever visualized a dream so vividly but deep in your chest, you still felt tight, anxious, unsure? That's not just stress. That's your unconscious screaming, "I don't believe this is really possible." And that resistance, that's what delays the blessing. Because no matter how many vision boards you make or how many hours you spend meditating, if your core belief is, "I'm not ready," or "I don't deserve it," the universe will respond accordingly. Not because it's cruel, but because it's honest. You can't lie to your unconscious. It hears everything, it remembers everything, and it runs the show, especially when you're not paying attention. But here's where the transformation begins. When fear rises, don't silence it with another podcast. When doubt creeps in, don't drown it with fake positivity. Sit with it, listen to it, ask it why it's here. Because every fear is a message. Every hesitation is a doorway. Every doubt is a chance to understand yourself more deeply. This is what real alignment looks like, not forcing a smile through your tears, but holding space for your full truth, even when it's messy. And here's the paradox most people never expect. When you finally stop trying to fix yourself, when you stop manipulating the timeline and allow stillness to exist, that's when the shift begins. Because the unconscious finally stops resisting, and the universe, sensing your energy has changed, says, "Now you're ready. You're not here to chase alignment. You're here to become it." And becoming always begins with the courage to sit in stillness and truly listen to what your soul has been whispering all along. There's a quiet kind of power that very few people talk about. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it changes everything. It's called detachment. And no, detachment doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean you stop caring or that you settle for less. It means you stop needing. Let me say that again. Detachment means releasing the need for something in order to finally let it come to you. We've been taught from the very beginning that we have to fight for what we want. Push harder, hustle more, manifest, like it's a full-time job. And if we let go, that must mean we don't want it badly enough, right? But what if that's the very belief system keeping us stuck? Let's shift the perspective. Detachment isn't apathy, it's clarity. It's the deep calm knowing that says, "I've done what I can. Now I release what's beyond me." It's that moment when you exhale deeply, not in defeat, but in surrender. Not from weakness, but from wisdom. Think about a time when you finally let go of something you were clinging to, a relationship, a job, a goal that was driving you into the ground. Remember how at first it felt like loss. But then, peace slowly followed, maybe even relief. And then when you least expected it, something even better arrived. Or maybe what you were chasing returned, but this time without resistance. That's not coincidence. That's alignment. Because when you stop grabbing at life with clenched fists, life finally has room to reach back. The truth is, you can't receive with your hands closed. You can't welcome something in if your energy is screaming, "I need this or I'll fall apart." Carl Jung once said that true transformation doesn't happen through obsession. It happens through integration, and integration requires space, stillness, detachment. Let's go deeper. When you check your phone 20 times a day for their message, that's not love. When you analyze every delay, every pause, every shift in energy, that's not manifestation. That's anxiety. And your soul, it wasn't designed to chase. It was designed to know. Detachment is the radical act of trusting that life will bring you what's meant for you, not when you panic, but when you become peaceful. And here's the paradox. The moment you no longer need something is the exact moment you become ready to hold it. Because now it's not about filling a void inside you. It's about sharing your fullness with the world. Think about it like this. You don't want money just to have paper in your wallet. You want the freedom you believe money will bring. You don't want love just to say you have a partner. You want the connection, the feeling of being seen and safe. And none of that starts with the other person or the paycheck. It starts with you, with becoming the person who already feels free, already feels loved, already feels safe. That's the magic of detachment. It doesn't strip away your dreams. It strips away your dependence on them. It turns desire into a sacred invitation rather than a desperate pursuit. And look, I get it. Letting go feels terrifying because we're conditioned to believe that if we stop chasing, we'll be forgotten. We'll fall behind. We'll lose the thing we wanted so badly. But here's the truth. You're not falling behind. You're falling back into yourself. When you detach, you take your power back from the things, people, and outcomes that were never meant to complete you. You stop tying your worth to what happens or doesn't happen. You stop measuring your value by timelines, likes, bank balances, or replies, and you begin to move differently, slower, softer, stronger, because now you're not chasing life, you're attracting it. So ask yourself gently, what am I clinging to right now that's actually weighing me down? What belief is whispering I can't be okay unless I have this? And what would happen just for a moment if you set it down? Would you feel free? Would you feel scared? Would you finally feel still? That's the space where the shift happens, not because you forced it, but because you became aligned with it. You see, the universe doesn't speak desperation, it speaks resonance. And when your energy finally says, I am whole either way, that's when the universe whispers back, now you're ready. So today, take the pressure off. Breathe deeper. Want what you want, but don't need it to validate who you are, because you are already it. You already are. Let go and watch what flows in. There's a moment no one warns you about on the healing journey. It doesn't come with fireworks. There's no sign from the universe, no glowing reward for all your inner work. It's just quiet. After you let go, after the fight, the pushing, the grasping, comes the void. You wake up and everything looks the same. No big shift, no breakthrough, just stillness. The message hasn't arrived. The opportunity hasn't shown up. The pain hasn't fully lifted. And a little voice inside whispers, was any of this even worth it? That moment, that's what breaks most people. Because we've been trained to believe that if we let go, something good will immediately rush in to replace what we surrendered. We expect instant clarity, a clean swap, some proof that the process is working. But here's what they don't tell you. The universe doesn't operate on your timeline. It doesn't respond to panic or impatience. It responds to alignment, and alignment takes time. Right now you're in the in-between, the place where your old self has died, but your new self hasn't fully emerged. It's like being under construction, except you're both the architect and the demolition crew. Carl Jung called this space the creative void, and it's one of the most sacred parts of transformation. Because while nothing looks like it's happening on the surface, everything is shifting beneath. Your nervous system is recalibrating, your identity is dissolving and reforming. Old belief systems are being stripped away so new ones can root. But here's the trap, because you can't see it. Your ego tells you it's not working. So what do most people do? They rush back into old patterns. They start chasing again, doubting everything, sabotaging the very progress that was quietly unfolding. Don't do that. If you're in the void, hold your ground. This is not punishment, this is purification. The silence isn't a sign of failure, it's the space required for something real, something lasting to be born. And I know it's uncomfortable, because the void is empty of proof. It gives you no validation, no feedback. It demands that you trust without evidence. But that's the deeper lesson, isn't it? Can you hold the energy of abundance before the money shows up? Can you feel loved before the relationship arrives? Can you feel free before your circumstances change? Because if you can, you collapse time. You become the vibration of what you desire before it arrives. And that's what magnetizes it to you. Not the wishing, not the scripting, not the constant overthinking, but your embodied state. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, what am I trying to rush? What part of me still believes that silence means failure? The void is not asking you to do more. It's asking you to become still enough to receive, to stop chasing and start becoming. This is where real transformation happens, not in motion, but in the stillness between. Because once you master the void, once you stop demanding proof and instead become presence, life will get loud again. But this time it won't just make noise, it'll sing your song. So breathe, trust, don't fix, don't panic. You're not being forgotten, you're being rebuilt. And soon, everything that once felt far away will rise to meet the version of you that's finally ready to hold it. Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right and yet nothing was moving? You've visualized, you've affirmed, you've let go 100 times and still checked your phone right after. You're watching for signs, repeating mantras, holding on to hope like it's a lifeline. And still, silence. So here's the question no one really asks. What if it's not about how badly you want it? What if it's about why you want it? Because here's a truth most people don't want to hear. You don't attract what you're obsessed with. You attract what you've made peace with. Let that sink in. That thing you're chasing so hard, whether it's love, success, validation, or healing, if the energy behind it is desperation, fear, or emptiness, it's not magnetizing, it's repelling. Because obsession doesn't come from power, it comes from lack. Carl Jung once taught that the goal isn't to become perfect, it's to become whole. And wholeness isn't found in the constant pursuit of what you don't have. It's found in embracing every part of who you already are. Yes, even the messy parts, even the insecure parts, even the parts you'd rather hide. Let me ask you, what part of you are you trying to fix by manifesting this desire? Is it really about the money, or is it about the fear of never feeling safe again? Is it really about the relationship, or is it about the ache of never having felt seen? Is it really about achievement, or are you still trying to prove you're enough to someone who once made you feel small? You see, the desire itself isn't wrong. Wanting more is not the issue. The problem is when you tie your worth to the arrival of that thing. Because the moment you believe I need this to feel whole, you disconnect from the truth that you already are. Integration means holding your light and your shadow in the same breath. It means honoring your strength and still validating your pain. It means becoming the kind of person who no longer needs external permission to feel enough. And when you do that, when you stop outsourcing your value, everything changes. You stop chasing love and start radiating it. You stop begging for abundance and start embodying it. You stop performing for approval and start living in your truth. This is the real shift. And no, it won't always feel like fireworks. Sometimes it's just a deep breath, a moment of stillness, a quiet knowing that says, I'm okay, even if nothing arrives today, because I've already returned to myself. Think about this. When was the last time you sat with your longing instead of running from it? When was the last time you asked your desire what it's really trying to heal? That's where the power is. Not in obsessing, not in controlling, not in scripting your next 10 moves, but in integrating. Because when you can fully accept yourself, when you can say, yes, I've been broken and I've been brave. Yes, I've longed for more and I still belong. You stop needing the world to reflect your worth. And here's the beautiful irony. That's exactly when the world starts responding differently. Not because it's finally decided you're worthy, but because you finally did. So next time you feel that urge to chase, to prove, to obsess, pause. Not out of fear, but out of mastery. Take a breath, close your eyes, and ask yourself, what part of me still believes I need this thing to feel complete? Because when you realize you're already whole, you stop reaching from a place of lack and start attracting from a place of alignment. That's not fantasy. That's real power. Let's be honest, how many times have you refreshed your inbox, stared at your phone, reread that message, checked the clock, wondering why hasn't it happened yet? We've all done it. That anxious, obsessive scanning for signs, for validation, for something, anything to show us we're still on the right path. But here's the thing, that's not your intuition speaking. That's not your higher self whispering guidance. That's your ego panicking. And it's okay, because the ego is trying to protect you. It wants certainty, it craves control, it fears the unknown. It tells you, if I can just plan enough, if I can predict the outcome, I won't get hurt again. But your soul speaks differently. It moves slower, it breathes deeper, it doesn't scream, it whispers. While the ego demands proof, the soul offers peace. The ego says, I need to know how this ends. The soul says, I trust it's unfolding, even if I don't understand it yet. This is the internal tug-of-war we all feel, and it can be subtle. You tell yourself you're just being proactive when really you're operating from fear. You tell yourself you're just checking in when really you're chasing reassurance. You tell yourself you're manifesting, but underneath it all, your energy says, I don't believe I'm safe without this thing. Carl Jung, the great depth psychologist, called this the tension between the persona and the self. The mask we wear to feel in control versus the truth that waits quietly behind it. So here's the invitation. Next time you feel overwhelmed, reactive, desperate to do something, pause. Not to run away, but to ask a simple, powerful question. Is this coming from my ego or from my soul? If it feels like pressure, fear, urgency, it's ego. If it feels like peace, groundedness, quiet, knowing, that's your soul. And no, this doesn't mean stop dreaming. It doesn't mean stop working toward what you want. It means stop clinging to it like your life depends on the outcome. Because the truth is, you've already survived the things you thought would break you. You're not fragile. You're just remembering. And the moment you choose peace over panic, even when there's no sign to justify it, something shifts. Not outside, but inside. You stop measuring your worth in unread messages. You stop defining your success by how fast things manifest. You stop tying your happiness to a timeline that was never yours to begin with. And something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to move differently. You speak softer, you trust more, because now you're not reacting, you're aligning. And here's the paradox no one tells you. The less you try to control, the more naturally things begin to flow. Not because you're forcing the universe to respond, but because you're no longer resisting it. You're no longer blocking it with fear. So the next time your ego tells you to check again, do more, move faster, pause. Place your hand over your heart. Breathe and ask, what would the healed version of me do right now? Maybe they'd rest, maybe they'd smile, maybe they'd let go, because they know that everything meant for them is already on the way, not because they chased it, but because they became someone who could receive it. and that's when your soul begins to lead. There's a truth about manifestation that most people don't talk about. It's not popular, it's not pretty, but it's real, and once you understand it, everything begins to shift. You're not manifesting with your vision board. You're not manifesting with your affirmations. You're manifesting with your wholeness. That means the universe doesn't respond to your goals. It responds to your integration. It listens not to what you say you want, but to who you are when no one's watching, to what you believe about yourself when things are quiet, to what lives in your unconscious, especially the parts you've spent your life avoiding. That's where the real work begins. In the shadow. Carl Jung called the shadow the part of ourselves we refuse to see. It's the anger you were taught to suppress, the fear you buried under a brave face, the shame you tried to cover with perfection, the unworthiness you masked with ambition. And here's the thing. You can't manifest light while running from your darkness, because whatever you repress, you project into your desires, your relationships, your decisions. You end up chasing love not because you want love, but because you're trying to escape loneliness. You chase success not from alignment, but from a core belief that says, I'll never be enough unless I prove myself. And the universe. It reflects that frequency back to you. That's why sometimes the thing you worked so hard for arrives, but it feels hollow. That's why you attract partners who trigger your wounds. Why you manifest money that disappears as fast as it came. Why you feel blessed on the outside but broken on the inside. Because your manifestations didn't come from wholeness, they came from fragmentation. So if you're wondering why things aren't sticking, why the peace, the love, the stability never feels sustainable, it might be time to ask yourself, what part of me is still operating from fear? What part of me is still begging the world to fix what I refuse to face? Shadow work is not about fixing you. It's about facing you, all of you. It's about turning inward and saying, yes, I've been angry. Yes, I've been scared. Yes, I've carried shame, guilt, and grief I never gave myself permission to feel. And when you do that, when you meet yourself fully without judgment, your entire energy changes. You stop attracting from wounds. You start magnetizing from wisdom. And suddenly the things you've been chasing, they begin to arrive not because you demanded them, but because you became someone who could receive them. Think about it like this. You can't build a house on top of a cracked foundation and expect it to last. Likewise, you can't build your dream life on a self-image that's fragmented and avoidant. The cracks will always show. But when you heal the foundation, when you tend to the places inside you that hurt, you create a space stable enough for everything you desire to land and stay. Let's be clear, this is not easy work. It takes honesty, it takes courage, it takes slowing down when everything in you wants to run. But you weren't meant to run from yourself forever. Shadow work isn't spiritual punishment, it's spiritual freedom. It's the permission to say, this is me, not just the light, but the pain, the doubts, the fear, and I'm worthy of love anyway. Because when you finally stop hiding, the universe doesn't look away. It leans in, it aligns with your honesty, it reflects your integration. And that's when manifestation becomes real. That's when you stop performing and start receiving. That's when life stops being a test and starts becoming a mirror of your wholeness. So today, I invite you to ask yourself, what part of me have I been afraid to meet? Because that part, that's not your weakness, that's your doorway. You don't manifest more by avoiding your pain. You manifest more by becoming someone who's no longer afraid to hold it. That's not magic, that's maturity, that's power. And when you stand in that power, you no longer need to chase. You become, you embody, you allow. What if I told you that the biggest obstacle between you and the life you want isn't the universe, isn't bad timing, isn't your past or your circumstances? It's you. And I don't say that to blame you. I say it to set you free. because once you realize that you're the one holding the keys, you stop waiting for permission and you start transforming from the inside out. See, the truth is, it's not that your dreams are too big. It's that there's a version of you still alive inside that doesn't fully believe you deserve them. And that inner contradiction, that silent tug of war between wanting more and not feeling worthy of it, that's what's blocking the flow. You might be saying all the right affirmations. You might be working hard, doing the manifestation rituals, visualizing every morning. But deep down, if there's a part of you that whispers, "I'm not enough yet," that's the signal the universe responds to. Because manifestation isn't about wanting, it's about becoming. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And he was right, because real self-acceptance means facing the parts of yourself you've spent years avoiding: the guilt, the fear, the regret, the old shame that says you have to earn your worth, that says you must chase it, prove it, hustle for it. And so you keep moving, working harder, running faster, hoping that one day the life you dream of will finally catch up. But here's the twist: that dream life isn't waiting for more effort. It's waiting for your alignment. It's waiting for you to become someone who doesn't just want more, but who believes they're ready to hold it. And that requires more than strategy. It requires identity work. Because you don't receive what you wish for, you receive what you are. Let's break that down. If you're still holding on to a belief that you must suffer before you receive, if you secretly think that love must be earned, if success feels like a reward for self-sacrifice, then you'll unconsciously sabotage every opportunity that comes your way. You'll push away the very thing you say you want without even realizing it. Why? Because the version of you who's chasing it doesn't yet feel safe enough to receive it. So what's the real work here? It's not pushing harder. It's not doing more. It's becoming the version of yourself that no longer needs the blessing to feel worthy. The version who says, "I'm already enough. I'm already whole. I'm already worthy." That version doesn't beg. That version doesn't chase. That version attracts. So ask yourself gently and honestly, what part of me still doesn't believe I'm ready? What old version of me, built in survival, built in fear, is still running the show? Because until you update your self-concept, every dream you chase will feel out of reach. And not because it's too far, but because you're still showing up as someone who thinks they can't have it. Here's the good news. You're not stuck. You're not broken. You're not late. You're just being invited to evolve, to grow into the person who can receive what you've been asking for. Not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. It's not about earning more. It's about embodying more. And when you make that shift, when you stop seeking outside and start aligning inside, life starts to reflect that wholeness back to you. Not instantly, not magically, but organically in ways that feel real, grounded, and sustainable. Because once you become the version of you who already believes, you stop asking, you start allowing, you stop forcing, you start receiving. That's not just manifestation, that's destiny alignment. Let me leave you with a truth that might shake everything you thought you knew about growth, healing, and manifestation. You're not manifesting, you're remembering. All this time, you thought you were attracting something new, pulling love, success, clarity, or abundance into your life like a magnet. But the truth is, none of it is new. It was always there. The clarity you crave, the peace you chase, the love you long for, it already exists within you. You're not building it from scratch. You're just removing the noise that made you forget. See, you were born whole, before the world told you who to be, before the heartbreaks and the disappointments, before the conditioning that whispered, "You're not enough unless you were already enough." And now, through this journey, this return, you're not learning something foreign. You're simply remembering what's always been true. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about coming home to who you were before fear, before shame, before survival, taught you to shrink. You don't have to manifest your worth. You have to remember it. You don't need to visualize your power. You need to reclaim it. You don't need to beg the universe for alignment. You need to recognize that you already are alignment when you stop trying to be what you're not. Let me ask you something. What if the reason you feel stuck is because you've been trying to force your way into a life that's already waiting for you if only you'd stop resisting your own truth? What if the very thing you're chasing is hidden beneath the layers of who you were told to be? What if you're not late, not broken, not behind, but simply distracted from the signal of your soul? This is the shift most people miss. They think manifestation is about effort. More affirmations, more strategies, more rituals. But the deeper truth, manifestation isn't about calling something in. It's about clearing what's in the way of what's already there. And that clearing starts with shedding identities that never belonged to you in the first place. The version of you that had to perform for love. The one that had to succeed to feel seen. The one that had to be perfect to feel safe. You don't need to become worthy. You need to remember you were never unworthy. And the beautiful irony is, the moment you stop trying to attract and start remembering who you are, life begins to mirror that clarity. You don't beg anymore. You don't overthink. You don't doubt every delay. You simply are. And in that being, everything begins to align, because the version of you who is rooted in truth doesn't rush, doesn't chase, doesn't fear silence. They know that what is meant for them has always been theirs because they finally became someone who could hold it. So instead of asking, how do I get it? Start asking, what in me is blocking it? What story am I still carrying that says, I can't have this? What identity am I still clinging to that was built out of survival, not self? Because the moment you drop the story, the energy shifts, not because something changed out there, but because you did. Carl Jung once said, "We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life." And maybe this moment, this video, is one of those disguises. A checkpoint, a spiritual mirror, a gentle invitation to stop chasing the world and start returning to yourself. You're not lost. You're not starting over. You're just peeling away the layers that kept you from seeing who you've always been. Let that truth settle in your body. You don't need to create a new reality. You need to remember the one that's been waiting for you all along. And that starts with stillness, not the passive kind that hides from action, but the sacred kind that knows when to stop striving. Because striving is loud, but remembering is quiet. It happens when you finally pause, when you finally listen, when you stop needing to be more and start seeing that you already are. So today, right now, in this moment, breathe, not as a task, not as a technique, but as a signal to your unconscious that says, I'm done chasing, I'm done performing, I'm done waiting for the world to validate what my soul already knows. I am ready to receive because I am already aligned. This is not fantasy, this is frequency. And when you embody that frequency, your original frequency, the world bends around it. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped resisting it. And that's the art of remembering. You're not here to attract everything you desire. You're here to become the version of you who remembers it was always yours. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to fight for it. You simply have to remember who you were before the world made you forget. That's the final truth. That's the full circle. That's the invitation. So if this message spoke to something deep inside, you don't scroll away like nothing happened. Because this wasn't just content. This was a moment, a message, a mirror. And now the question is, will you honor it? Will you stop looking outward and begin turning inward? Because in a world obsessed with becoming more, sometimes the most powerful act is to become less less noise, less proving, less pretending. So here's your reminder. You are not manifesting, you are remembering, and your return starts now.